Welcome back to Screen Crush. I'm Ryan Arey, and this is all of the Easter eggs, references, and little things that you might have missed in The Boys, Episode 3. We open with a flashback to 17 years ago when Annie's mom is coaching her through a child beauty pageant. Child beauty pageants are already gross and weird, but super child beauty pageants are downright disturbing. Annie is in the middle of what is probably appendicitis.
It's not my tummy, it's my side.
But her mom forces her to deal with the pain.
Pain is weakness leaving the body.
A lesson that will inform her for the rest of her life. The song she sings for her routine is Hit Me Baby One More Time by Britney Spears, which is a very appropriate and gross choice. This is the song that really put Spears on the map and became an anthem for the virginity-obsessed craze of the Bush era in the 2000s. Basically, Spears would sing this song looking sexy. The song sounds like it's about sex, but her marketing team claims it's not about sex and she is still a virgin. So, for a kids beauty pageant contestant to sing this song, creepy, man. And it's not even the creepiest thing in the episode. And all of this is presented by State Farm. Like, is this a real ad for State Farm? Is this product placement? Who at State Farm thought like this was good publicity for them?
Hello, you're fired.
Then we go to Homelander's confession when he says,
keep me impotent.
And we've heard this kind of language around heroes before, notably the Homelander cuck porn that Lamplighter was watching last season. I did predict that people were going to end up loving Homelander's speech, and they did, particularly the white male demographic who liked that he didn't want to apologize for being an a-hole. I think that this was the key line.
If they can control me, then you can bet your ass they can control you.
As soon as Homelander says this, he tells his supporters that he is one of them, and only he can prevent them from controlling you. And who are them? Well, them is whoever you're afraid of.
And for all we know, these maniacs could already have flown over our borders and be standing next to you, just waiting for their chance to kill us all.
Scaring people like this is kind of like not showing the shark in Jaws. It's always more frightening if you let people run wild with their imaginations. And notice Homelander surrounds himself with statues of Greek gods, a way of saying that he views himself as a god among all of us mud people. Then the boys are reunited and working out of the Flatiron Building like they do in the comics. The poster on the table here is for a movie called A Woman of Distinction, and a key plot point in that film is about a guy inventing a false relationship between two characters, just like Homelander does to Annie in this episode.
Hashtag Homelight.
Huey is reunited with the gang and he's wearing a shirt from The Last Waltz, the epic live concert from the band that was also their last show together. This could be foreshadowing that this is the boys' last waltz and that someone in this show is not making it out alive. On the show American Hero, one of the finalists is Silver Kincaid, who in the comics is a spoof of the X-Man Emma Frost. Now notice that the boys keep hanging up clippings and photos of the Supes on their wall, which draws a neat parallel to the marketing team at Vought, which is marking off show contestants on their wall. This also seems like an homage to this classic cover of the Uncanny X-Men. Now, in case you don't remember, this is Sharif, Frenchie's an old flame that he used to do heists with before Grace Mallory recruited him to work with the boys. She is running away from Little Nina, who we see later in this episode and will be a key character this season. In the comics, Little Nina is a dwarf Russian gangster who manufactures a knockoff version of Compound V that actually makes people's heads explode. More on her in a bit. We find out that A-Train's speed is killing him, similar to a comic book storyline in The Flash. And you may not remember, but this is his brother who was coaching him in season 1. Now, I thought it was really sweet when Kimiko related to Ryan. They both hate their powers, and he is the sweet little innocent child that she never got to be. Butcher tells Mallory that he knows about her safe hidden behind a picture of George Bush Sr. Now, it makes sense that she would look up to George Bush Sr. because he is a former director of the CIA. And also, in the comics, Vic the Veep was a parody of his son, George W. Bush. Then she talks about the real-life Iran-Contra scandal where, basically, Reagan administration officials sent Black Ops forces to fight against communist rebels in Nicaragua, and they paid for this by selling weapons to the Iranians so they could use them in the war against Iraq. It's a long story. But a colonel named Oliver North ended up taking the fall for it, but Mallory claims that the whole thing was actually Reagan's baby from the start. The soldiers are shipping drugs in a box of Black Noir coffee, one of many Vought products that are endorsed by the Supes. Now, the reason they're shipped in coffee is because the smell throws off the dogs. This whole origin story for Mallory is updated from the comics, where he was a soldier in World War II, and the Supes made a giant mess at the Battle of the Bulge. Basically, they had no training and no concern for any normal person's life because they are invincible, just like it plays out here. Now, Payback, the boys' version of the Avengers, shows up set to the Scorpions' Rock You Like a Hurricane. This is such a perfect song choice because, like the Supes, the song isn't subtle. It's about a guy thinking that his penis is a natural disaster, like a hurricane. In the same way, these cocksure heroes stroll into battle thinking they're going to mow down the enemy like a hurricane. The heroes are Crimson Countess, a parody of the Scarlet Witch, who loves chimps.
You know that chimps are physically incapable of crying, but that doesn't mean they're not crying on the inside.
There's also Mindstorm, who was called Mind Droid in the comics. He's the team telepath. Swado, who's kind of like the Wasp in the Avengers, and he was also in the comics. The TNT twins, who I'm guessing are grown-up versions of the Wonder Twins, and finally Black Noir. Now, this episode seems to give us a reason why Black Noir is always wearing a mask and never talks, but it's different in the comics. I won't spoil it for you, and if you're not planning on reading the comics, don't go on the internet and spoil it for yourself like I did. It's a really cool twist, if they go in that direction. And finally, we see Soldier Boy and his teen sidekick Gunpowder, parodies of Captain America and Bucky. Based on what we see in this episode, I don't think that Soldier Boy actually ever saw combat in World War II, and that he was just a propaganda movie star. When Soldier Boy harasses Mallory, he name drops the actress Lonnie Anderson. That's Burt Reynolds' former wife and star of WKRP in Cincinnati. Young Stan Edgar mentions director Casey, and this is the real-life William Casey, director of the CIA under Reagan. I loved how they broke up this flashback with Butcher going into the bathroom. It's a great way to build up tension and to get a chance to cut away to other stories. Then Homelander continues to torment Starlight, bringing the Deep back onto the show. He brings along his wife, using her as a prop to make it seem like he's changed. And Homelander can do this because, as he says,
popularity is power.
That was true when we were in high school, and it's true at every age in life, in any industry, but especially in politics and showbiz. But Homelander goes on to prove to Starlight that while he likes popularity, power is even better.
I'd prefer to be loved, but if you take that away from me, being feared is A1 okie doke by me.
This whole speech is so chilling because it shows how much Homelander has thought about doing all this. Like he's fantasized about how he could destroy the world and just rule it for fun.
I'll take out the nerve centers, the White House, the Pentagon, then any domestic defense capabilities, and then critical infrastructure.
And you can see this in how he loves to hurt people's feelings and lord his power over them. I mean, not just his physical power, but his emotional power. Like how he sent the Deep this portrait of the two of them together.
So tomorrow, you have the Recontextualizing Feminism panel with Rose McGowan and Alyssa Milano.
Ooh, I love Charmed.
Rose McGowan and Alyssa Milano were both sexually assaulted and had the bravery to speak out. But the Deep apparently has no idea that any of that ever happened because he only ever makes the connection that the two were on the show Charmed.
What did you do? Why do you automatically assume it was something that I did?
It's a good show. During sex, the Deep is aroused by looking at this octopus, which is kind of like a real thing called tentacle porn. Basically, in the early 1800s, the Japanese government banned nudity and sexual artwork so they could be more westernized. So, drawings of naked people with tentacled animals became a fun workaround. A-Train watches a video of a soup named Blue Hawk who murdered a black teenager, a not too subtle reference to the murder of Trayvon Martin. They even say that he was curb stomped, which is a reference to the most hard-to-watch scene in American History X. Blue Hawk was also first mentioned on the 7 on 7 YouTube series, which is a must-watch for boys fans.
A brave, outspoken critic against the leftist lamestream media announced that patriotic hero Blue Hawk will be the spokesman for his upcoming For Freedom brand of products.
A-Train says he doesn't want to speak out, saying,
Listen, I'm Michael Jordan. I'm not Malcolm X.
Now, Michael Jordan famously resisted ever getting involved in civil rights or politics, saying Republicans buy shoes too. Then we get the horrific scene where we see what happens when you send soups into combat, just like it happens in the comics.
They killed Soldier Boy.
What? Who?
The Russians. They had some kind of gun or weapon or something.
Now, I personally don't think that Soldier Boy is actually dead. He is in Russia, probably a prisoner so the Russians can make generic compound V from his blood, or maybe he's a Russian agent. I can't wait to find out. In the comics, there is a long arc where the team goes to Russia and encounters a team called the Glorious 5-Year Plan. We've already met one member of that team called Love Sausage. I can't show you any clips of Love Sausage's power because this is a family show. Right after Mallory says that Butcher is just like his father, he treats Ryan like garbage, like his father did to him. It's the old lassie trick where you're mean to her to get her to leave you alone for her own safety, and it works. Ryan returns the St. Christopher medal that Butcher gave him that Becca originally gave to Butcher. Then we get to the saddest, creepiest scene in the episode. It starts with Homelander comparing himself to Martin Luther King.
Free at last! Free at last. Free at last.
And then he forces the Deep to eat Timothy. Man, and the way Timothy's tentacles are hugging his face, begging him not to eat him, it's heartbreaking. But Homelander doesn't just do this to be mean. He's demanding that the Deep make a sacrifice to him. See, Homelander sees himself as a god, and gods demand sacrifices of the people who worship them. It's the way that people can show their affection, by giving up something that they love. Again, calling back to those statues of Greek gods that Homelander surrounds himself with. Supersonic tells Starlight that he's sticking around while they're standing in Stormfront's trailer from last season. Now, the reality show producers tease a love triangle between them and Huey, and that's a bit meta since that is actually what's happening on the show. Huey asks Starlight to stay by Homelander's side and stick it out, while Supersonic is actually beside her and he has her back. So I think there's going to be some resentment toward Huey for hanging around to dry and some loyalty to Supersonic there. Homelander forces her to pretend they are in a relationship, and the episode ends with the way it began, with Annie holding back the pain with a clenched fist while One More Time is playing. But note the song's lyrics take on a new meaning here. Like Britney, her loneliness is killing her, but Hit Me Baby One More Time shows her resilience to anything Homelander can throw at her. Well, that's all the Easter eggs we found, but if you found any, let me know in the comments below, or you can @ me on Twitter. And if it's your first time here, be sure to subscribe and smash that bell. For Screen Crush, I'm Ryan Arey.